Hello. Hello, Mrs. Sadakat.
Hello.
Hello,
Yes, sir.
I'm there. Yeah, welcome, Dr. Dinesh. Yeah, Dinesh, you are able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. I said good to see you after a long time.
Absolutely, sir. And it's my privilege, I would say.
It's a privilege on both sides, rather.
Absolutely,
We'll
absolutely.
wait for 5 minutes more, okay,
Sure.
and then we'll start. Aditya, you are also there, no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
So you will be helping Dr. Dinesh for the presentation, okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's great. So you are able to load it, right? As and when
Yes.
required.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, Aditya.
Yeah,
Welcome.
Aditya is our faculty member and
Nice to meet
he's a
you.
very energetic person.
Thank you, sir.
Nice to meet you, Aditya.
Nice to meet you, sir.
We'll wait for 1 more minute.
Yes, I think we have 1 more minute left. I think yeah, it's just 4 right now. Yeah, we can wait for a couple of more minutes.
Students are coming, joining right now. We'll wait.
So how's the situation there, sir? How is it going? Is it better now or?
No, it's, I mean, day by day it's going worst actually in Mumbai,
Yeah,
but majority of the people who are suffering are from the health profession itself. Workers.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope
Front
so that
line.
situation improve. Frontline people actually. So we hope
Mm.
for the better.
Absolutely.
What about you at Hyderabad? There?
Hyderabad is, I would say, earlier it was in terms of cases, but now much, and now we have known where earlier some
Your voice is cracking. Your voice is cracking. There was some problem.
Yes, so they're asking about the part for hotspot. Now is drama of containment area.
Voice is cracking.
Hello, is it better now, sir?
Yeah, it's better now. Better now.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we should start now, right? Okay. So good afternoon, one and all present over here for this webinar organized by D.Y. Patil University School of Pharmacy. Dear students and the fellow speaker today, I welcome all of you for this closing session of the Knowledge Yajna series, what we call it as the webinar series, what we have started for our pharmacy students across the country, in fact. So we started this series on 9th of May 2020 with Dr. Roshan Paliwar, who inaugurated this. And today we have another young and dynamic speaker, that is Dr. Dinesh Makhija from Novartis, who is going to talk on a very interesting topic, that is career avenues in medical communications. And of course, as I know Dr. Dinesh, he is being, a very ardent writer and has been involved in doing a lot of writing work since his college days. And so he has chosen a very right profession, in fact, and he is there to guide us on medical communication. So I am really happy to see you, Dr. Dinesh Makhija, and welcome you here on the platform of D.Y. Patil University School of Pharmacy. I would like to introduce Dr. Dinesh as he's a team lead for medical communication team in Novartis Pharmaceuticals. He's based at Hyderabad presently. He is ISMPP India country champion as volunteer. Of course, he will be explaining us what is this ISMPP and what is the functionality they carry forward. By training, he is a PhD in pharmacology and a Six Sigma Green Belt certified professional. And also, as I told you, he's a prolific writer as far as scientific contents are concerned. And probably this particular webinar will give you idea about it. Dear students, whatever questions you have, you'll be putting into your chat box. So once we start with the presentation of Dr. Dinesh, later on we will capture those questions and we will be asking a lot of questions to him. And let us make this closing session as very interactive session. I am sure that Dr. Dinesh will take you through a very bright kind of career. He'll open the doors of bright career for you guys. And let us stay tuned for this webinar. Over to you, Dr. Dinesh.
Thank you, sir. I would say, pledge all my, in fact, including webinar.
The voice is cracking. Voice is cracking. Just make it properly.
Yeah.
Just try once. I will.
Back. Try.
Aditya, are you able to hear it?
Is it better now?
Yeah,
Aditya,
it's yes,
you
sir.
were able to
No, So it's cracking. The voice is cracking. His voice is
That's what.
cracking.
I mean, I felt so.
Hello.
Yeah, yeah. Dinesh, you can
Hello,
start
sir.
again.
Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better now. Now it's better.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. I've switched off my video because it's of the usual internet problem.
No, you can
Sorry for
start
that.
in the beginning. You
So
keep it, and then later on you can think. Yeah.
yes, so I would like to say thanks for the great introduction, sir. And I would say privilege or the pleasure is on mine. And thanks for inviting me for this concluding session of the webinar series. In fact, I would like to add one point in this introduction that sir gave was I was the MPharm student under Dr. Somani, and it was my privilege to be under him. It was my search guide for MPharm, and that's where this instinct of a medical writer actually ignited in my mind. I would say, that was the time when actually I became a writer, and he was one who sharpened saw within me. So thanks for that. And good evening, friends. So I'm Dinesh, and I would be taking you through the journey of the medical communications and what career avenues, especially in India and Asia, Asian scenario. So if you can see the slide, if can we present the slide, Aditya?
Yeah.
Yep, here we are. So yes, so on the front page, I this was a pic which was quite enticing for me, I would say. And why? Because as we can see, there's Taj Mahal, which represents India. It's our heritage, and just next to Taj Mahal, you would see pencils there instead of minars, and that represents medical communications. Pen or a pencil is a symbol of medical writing or medical communications. So that was the reason I thought this is the best front cover I can have for my presentation, medical communications or career avenues in medical communications in India. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Yes. So a bit of disclaimer here, the information or the points that we'd be discussing today reflects personal knowledge that I have or my opinion solely, and it does not necessarily represent the views of my past or current employers. Next slide, please. So before we get into medical communications and understand the career aspects and opportunities in India, let's try to understand what exactly medical communications is all about. This is a definition I've placed here, and it is as per American Medical Writing Association. And we generally call this as AMWA, American Medical Writing Association, and it is the oldest body in the world which was created, dedicated to medical writing. And AMWA states that medical communication, or sometimes referred to as shortly MEDCOMS, is a development and production of materials that deal specifically with medicine or healthcare. So as the name suggests, it's very simple. Anything we communicate which is related to medicine or healthcare is medical communications. And we have been working on medical communications since ages. I'm sure all of us here, some of you who are research students who are working on abstracts, scientific abstracts, which are presented at scientific congresses in the form of a poster or an oral presentation. You might be working on your manuscripts or scientific articles that you would be publishing based on your research or data that you generate during your research. That's all part of the medical communication. In a way, what we are trying to do is we are communicating our data, we are communicating our science to the external world, which is going in the public domain. That communication is made available to researchers so that they can take those inputs, take those insights from our research and invest in their work. It is utilized by physicians, especially in case of clinical trials, where they can take judgment, or they can have clinicians' judgment based on the data presented in the manuscript. It is referred by academicians for guiding students, for strengthening research, and it's also referred by nowadays patients and their caregivers. So it's really important, and we need to be attentive of what we communicate, because it is read by a variety of audience, which are available, which is accessible to variety of audience in the public domain. Moving on to the next slide. As we saw, medical communications, what exactly means, but medical communications is nothing new to India. In fact, if you see in around 6th century BC, Shushrita Samhita, which was written, it had 184 chapters on surgery. It described various surgical methods in Ayurveda, and that is nothing but a form of a medical communication. Charak Samhita, which was around 3,000 years ago, and it is believed to be the oldest medical scripture as per the reports in India, and it contains about 120 chapters on medicine, a practice of Ayurveda, and that's the reason, it's an age-old philosophy, it's an age-old field, it's an age-old profession that we have in our country. It's just now we are giving it a position, it's just now we are giving it a name, and it's just now we are branding it as medical communications, but it's nothing new. It has been there with us since ages. Moving on to the next. So here we will look at the historical background of the medical communications, how it evolved. So right in the 2650 BC, we had Imhotep, who was Egyptian physician, and he was the first medical writer, in fact, I would say, because he was the one who wrote a lot of scriptures in the form of pictures, which we call hieroglyphics in Egyptian, as per the Egyptian text. And it was about different formulae that he used for preparing his prescriptions, for preparing his dosages, for preparing his formulations. So he was the first medical writer, as well as he was a physician himself. So he had a very profound knowledge of science. If we see Galen, I'm sure none of us are not aware about or are not familiar with Galen. We have all read Galenicals in our B.Pharm curriculum. So Galenicals again is another sample or another example of medical communications, which dates back to 129 to 216 AD. We had also Avicenna, which was in Persia, and these were the texts reported by Avicenna in around 980 AD. Then we come back to 16th century, where we had first scientific journal, which was published by the Royal Society, and that was Philosophical Transactions. This was the first scientific journal which was published, so another important milestone in the field of medical communications. Then the first medical journal was published in 1735. It was published in UK, and the title of this journal was Medical Essays and Observations. It was another landmark milestone in the field of medical communications. Followed by that, we go to 1940. We had establishment of AMWA, American Medical Writing Association. That was the first professional body for medical writing or medical communications. And as sir mentioned during the introduction, we have several other bodies, and their role is to encourage ethical practices in the field of medical communications. So similar to AMWA, we have something called as IMWA, which is European Medical Writing Association. We have the Indian version as well, which is Indian Medical Writing Association, but it is not that as active as American and European counterparts. We have another body now, which is ISMAP, or we call it ISMPP. It is International Society of Medical Publication Professionals. This is a global society of medical publication professionals, where we all get together during annual meetings. We conduct a lot of webinars, we conduct a lot of seminars on educational topics pertinent to medical writing or medical communications in the field of publications. It's not only important for industries, but it's also really a good opportunity for academia to participate in ISMAP webinars or ISMAP university webinars, which give them a good opportunity to explore new avenues in the field of medical communications. If we talk about the Asian perspective, in around early 2000s, so the medical communication or the medical writing industry is new to India or is new to Asia. It just originated in early 2000s, when we had these medical agencies like Indigene, Zero coming into the market and serving their international clients, serving multinational companies for producing manuscripts, abstracts, slide decks on scientific and medical aspect. In 2003, we thought, all right, now we have medical writing industry. We have journals, that is mode of communication. We have a very rich history. People have been writing these papers. People have been writing science and medicine since ages. Now, why don't we, or can we have something, a guideline maybe, which defines what are the good publication practices? We've heard about good clinical practices, good manufacturing practices, good laboratory practices. Similarly, we thought, can we have something as good publication practices, which defines what are the ethical considerations that we should have while writing a manuscript? Who all should be given an authorship? Because that's always contentious issue. Who should be an author on the paper? Always people want to be an author on the paper, but who really qualifies to be an author on the paper? So the GPP was published in 2003, which actually outlined the authorship criteria, which actually talked about giving acknowledgement to the contribution of medical writers and other ethical practices in terms of paying honoraria to physicians for their contribution and things like that. So that was 2003 when we had GPP, and in 2015, GPP 3 was published, which is the third version or the third revision of the good publication practices. Now we are transforming ourselves, or we are trying to reimagine the field of publications. And we've been working on manuscripts, traditional posters, traditional abstracts, which is pretty good as of, it was pretty good as of yesterday. But now we need something that completely transforms the way we communicate our data. So the field is moving towards the digital era. Now we have a lot of scientific events. We have webinars through which we disseminate our data to physicians. We have advisory board meetings where we invite advisors from different organizations, and those are typically the doctors, they're typically academicians, and we seek their input, and we have it in a proper formal structure called advisory board meeting. We conduct standalone meetings, which are nothing but a standalone educational seminar, which is outside of a conference. We conduct symposia, Congress symposia. So when you travel to a Congress, you have those company booths, and they conduct those educational lectures for physicians for their education on disease state, and which are truly non-promotional in nature. So we are moving towards a digital era. And you would have found now the New England Journal of Medicine, which is a stalwart publication title in the field of medical publications, has started publishing a QR code, which actually gives us access to the video summary of the whole article. So if you have that QR code, you can just scan the QR code. You will be able to download a video. It would be a 2 to 4 minute video, which will summarize the whole article for you. Gone are those times when we used to go through each manuscript, flip those pages, understand the discussion. Here in just 2 minutes, with the technology, digital technology, you can get the gist of whole article, and you will be able to decide whether you really want to get into details, or this is something which you are not looking for, and start searching for something else. So that's what the contribution of digital era is, which is which is the time, and this is the time for digital era now. Moving on to the next slide, please. Yep. So as I said, medical communications is a field which is not new to India, and we have good publication practice guidelines. We have a guideline by a body called as ICMJE, which is mentioned on the screen. It is International Council for Medical Journal Editors. This, along with GPP, are the guidelines which outlines the importance of acknowledgement of writing assistance that is given for any paper. Say, for example, I'm a medical writer and I'm writing a scientific publication for my company. Then it is essential to have my name listed in the acknowledgement, in the form of acknowledgement, so that my efforts are transparent, are visible to whole world. If we do not have any acknowledgement, then it would be a ghostwriting, which is unethical practices, part of unethical practices in publications. So as per ICMJ, it's mandatory to acknowledge support of medical writers. But if we see in the times of Mahabharata, and we can correlate or resonate this now better because we all are watching Ramayana and Mahabharata nowadays on TV because of the situation. So in the era of Mahabharata, all of us know that Mahabharata was actually written by Vyas, Rishi Vyas, but actually it was not written by Vyas. It was dictated by Rishi Vyas. It was written by Lord Ganesha, because he wanted someone smart, someone very intellectually strong, someone very fast in absorbing the information, someone who is very fast in writing the information. So what we see, what attributes we see in Lord Ganesha is he's intellectually strong. He has a very strong grasp on knowledge. So whatever Lord Vyasa will say, he will understand very fast. Then followed by that, he is a person who can process that information faster and then produce the output faster. And these are the attributes which are actually expected from any medical writer. In the profession of medical writing, what we do is we try to communicate the data as if the expert is communicating it. Say, for example, I'm writing a manuscript which is on radiology imaging. I'm not the expert in radiology. I'm not a radiologist. But when I'm writing the manuscript, I need to understand the data from the perspective of radiologist. I need to communicate that data, structure the story in such a way that as if some radiologist has written the paper, as if the expert in that field has written the paper, so that other experts who are reading that paper can understand well. And these are the attributes which are expected from any good medical writer. And if you see on the image, it was during Mahabharata's time, the Lord Ganesha's contribution was acknowledged, and you will find it in the Mahabharata that it was Ganesha who wrote the text for Vyasa's dictation. Moving on to the next slide. So now coming in the current scenario, how's the landscape in India for medical communications? In India, medical communications profession is growing since early 2000, and it is expanding its horizons. What are the benefits for us? We have a very good pool of skilled professionals. All of us are skilled professionals. All of us researchers who are good in research, who are good in science, who have good understanding about medicine, who have good understanding about life sciences are the skilled professionals. And we have a good number of, or we have a very large pool of these skilled professionals in India. So that gives us a very good advantage. We are the second most English speaking country. We have the population, we are second in number in terms of population of people speaking English. So that's another advantage that we have, because most of our medical writing is in English. We have an economic advantage compared to Western countries, where the profession of medical communication is well established, but we have an economic advantage compared to them. So that makes India as a favorite destination for any medical communication industry. Majority of the medical communication is done in English, and that is sort of a lingua franca, I would say, a language which is default language for many of our services or for many of our projects that we do. And that is the reason India has become the favorite destination. Now, if we look at what are the kinds of industry where a professional medical writer can get into, so we have pharmaceutical industries. We have lots of pharmaceutical industries, and they have their in-house medical writing teams or medical communication teams, I would say. The very good examples are Eli Lilly. We have Sanofi. We have Novartis. We have Amgen. So these are good examples, and we have all these in India. Followed by contract research organizations. So we have a lot of CROs or knowledge process organizations like CRO, Indegene, who provide opportunities to professional medical writers. We also have an option as freelancers. So many of the medical writers you would find who have 10 years of experience or 12 years of experience, they are actually freelancers. They work from home, they work remotely, and they work on a project-based approach. Professional medical writers are also hired in media companies, medical media. So that's another booming industry in India. Medical journals, you will find medical writers in Elsevier. You will find them in Springer, in all the editorial and publishing houses, because they need medical writers to ensure, as you would have seen while submitting any of the publication, they provide an extra service on an extra cost for medical editing or for copy editing. And for that purpose, they need support of medical writers. Excuse me. We have academic institutions. As of now, we do not have this in India, but on the western part of the world, you'll find many academic institutions or universities hiring medical writers, and their job is to mainly focus on publishing the manuscripts, focus on developing abstracts and posters, focus on writing grant proposals for fetching research grants. So it involves a lot of effort. Then we have scientific societies. scientific societies like, say, American Association of Neurology. So they have their own medical writing team, their own content development team. We have healthcare websites. We have governmental organizations as well, like NIH. So they also have in-house medical writing teams. Going on to the next slide, please. So these are just the snippets of different types of roles that you would find on the, and from the career perspective during career search, you would find on the websites like LinkedIn or websites like any job search portal. But if we look at the right hand side of the slides, these are the different types of roles that we have in any medical communications department, regardless of whether that department is in an agency like a KPO or a CRO, or if it is in a multinational pharmaceutical company. So if we go to the functional roles, medical communications as an umbrella, we have first role is medical writer. Somewhere you'll also find it is termed as scientific writer. Few people also call it as a publication writer. We have something called as medical information manager. Now, medical information is a different team or a dedicated team which generally works on providing the medical information, as the name says. So what happens is, generally doctors, while practicing, if they have any query regarding any adverse event, regarding any mechanism of action, regarding any new molecule that is in trials by that particular company, what they would do is they would reach out to their MSLs or medical advisor who's from medical affairs unit of that pharmaceutical company. They would ask them query, hey, can you tell me more about this clinical trial? I would like to see what endpoints are being considered. What is the type of population that you are planning to include in this clinical trial that you are planning? Then MSL or a medical advisor, what they will do is they will escalate that query to medical information department. Medical information folks, what they would do is their job is to formulate a response to the query received by HCPs or doctors. And they formulate response based on some set of documents which they have prepared for their ready use. Those documents would be something like global guidance documents, which are like a guidance document for any molecule or any specific trial. They may have a list of FAQs ready with them, frequently asked questions. And these are the set of documents that they would have worked on earlier. And these are documents which are prepared for these kind of queries so that they are equipped to answer these queries. In case they are not able to answer these queries, they go back to the literature, they align with their clinical teams, and they formulate a response, and then they send it back to MSLs, through whom it reaches back to the doctor. And it is, if you see, it's at the end of the day, it's medical writing, because formulating the response, it's a medical response which you're formulating, and it's basically writing, which is a key element required there. Followed by that, we have scientific director. Scientific director is the one who has several years of experience in medical writing and has a very has a very good scientific background. And he or she is the one who actually reviews the document from scientific aspect. He or she is the one who actually ensures that all scientific messages are being conveyed through that document accurately. If there is any scientific glare, or if there's any scientific error in the document, so in a way you can say he's a peer reviewer, but a peer who has several years of experience in the domain. So that's the scientific director role. Followed by that, we also have a scientific editor or a copy editor. They're, as the name suggests, they are editors, so their job is mainly to look at the the body of document, how it looks, and what we can do grammatically in terms of language. If there's anything that can be fixed from language or style guide perspective, we have several style guides which are followed, like American Manual of American Medical Association. We have Vancouver style. So they would try to align and review your document from a perspective of the editor. These were the functional roles. Functional roles, as in these are the roles which actually deal with science on day-to-day basis, which requires that scientific knowledge. But we also have some operational roles in our in our domain, and that's what the it's a very good thing, or it's very interesting about medical communications, that it offers you diverse possibilities. It offers you plenty of possibilities within the same domain. And if you see, as a medical writer, you're dealing with different type of professionals. You're dealing with safety scientists sometimes, if it is a safety manuscript you're writing. you're dealing with epidemiologists, you're dealing with clinical trial scientists, you're dealing with a preclinical scientist, sometimes you're dealing with statisticians. So you get to interact with a lot of people, you get to work on all these concepts during your profession. And that opens door to immense possibilities. Moving forward, if you want to, you can get into a clinical trial management, you can get into you can get into statistics, you can get into epidemiology. So all those, so I would say medical writing or medical communications is a gateway to immense possibilities. These are the possibilities beyond the function, but within the function of medical communications, we have other roles like people manager. For instance, I am the team lead within Novartis, and I lead a team of writers. So I manage people. At the same time, I am also the functional advisor for the team. I review their stuff that they produce, I review their material that they produce, and I provide them scientific input. And I take care of their growth aspirations, development plans, performance assessment, etc. So that's the role of people manager. So after a certain point, gaining experience as a medical writer, if you feel that you want to have that business element into your profile, then you can get into a people manager's role. We also have a project manager. In any pharmaceutical company or in any KPO or a CRO, you have several projects. How do you manage timelines? How do we manage deliveries? Because timelines are of immense importance in our profession. If we do not communicate the data, competitor will communicate before us. So they are of immense importance. So how do we manage all the timelines? How do we manage all the projects? So we have a person who is project manager, who comes up with the plans, detailed plans, that this is the timeline for so-and-so project. This is the next milestone to be achieved. You develop outline, and we have received author input from authors. And now is the time for first draft. This is the date when first draft should go. So that's the job of pretty much project manager. We also have someone called as operations manager, because we use a lot of tools for managing reviews and for managing the publications. So all those tools are managed by operations manager. We have someone called as medical communications lead or publications manager. And this person actually has the overall visibility to the strategy. It's always good to have a publication plan in place before we start publishing, because we need to identify what piece of data we need to publish, how we slice our data in different abstracts, what are our target audience, what are our target congresses, what are our target journals, so that we can maximize our reach. We can't have a diabetes paper published in a neurology journal. For that, we need to address it to diabetologists. In case of migraine, we may have different stakeholders. For instance, we have headache specialists, we have neurologists, we have general practitioners. All three types of doctors are prescribing drugs for migraine. So if I have a data on migraine, which is my target audience to maximize the reach? Should I target a journal for neurologists? Should I target for a journal which is intended for headache specialists or for a general practitioners? So all these questions, based on the life cycle of your brand, based on the strategy of your molecule, are defined in the publication plan. And accordingly, we define the tactics. And tactics are nothing but how many abstracts we will have, how many posters we will have, where we will target all these posters, which congresses we'll target, and all those things. So the person leading this plan is called as medical communications lead. After that, we have someone called as account manager or account director. And this is generally a terminology which is used in CROs because these are the guys who manage the finance. So these are the guys who will give the quote based on the understanding of the work that pharma company or the client wants to get done from you as a CRO. So these are the guys who will go through whole scope of work that you okay. In this publication, we are supposed to do so and so task. Based on this, this will be the efforts, and based on these efforts, this will be our pricing. And they go back and propose the pricing to customers and seek their approval. So that's the job of account manager or director, and they are more of finance people. But if we see overall, even in these operational roles, unless and until if we have a domain knowledge, if we would had a knowledge of or the experience of medical writer, we won't be able to do our job. So it's at certain point in career, if from a medical writer, you as a medical writer, you decide that you no more want to be a functional guy, you no more want to close to the science, you want to have an element of business. So that's where you can take a different route of operational roles. But few people may want to stick to the science. They have that flair of science, and they can stick to the functional roles. So as I said initially, we have immense possibilities within medical communications. We can go with functional roles, we can go with operational roles, or beyond medical communications, gaining this experience, which is sort of a treasure for us. Next slide, please. Now, talking about medical writer, because that would be the stepping stone for any of us as students. So if we want to explore any of the opportunity in any medical writing department of any company, so that would be the first role that we will get to as a medical writer. So what do we need? What are the one characters of an ideal medical writer? Now, you need to be established scientist, at least scientist by mind, scientist by heart. You need to think about science. You need to think innovatively. You should be the one who should enjoy writing. You should have that flair for writing. A good listener, because what we do in medical writing is we reach out to authors, understanding their expectations, what they want to publish, what messages they want to convey. So it's always good to be a good listener so that we can listen to them and understand. Attention to detail. Devil is in the detail, so it's always good to have attention to detail. Comfortable with statistics, because in any publication we will have a lot of statistics, so we should have a decent knowledge of statistics so that we understand it better. Excellent communication. Of course, it's a domain of medical communications, so we have to be excellent in communications, and that's how we interact with our authors. We should have good presentation skills, and presentation doesn't just mean the oration skills, but it also means how do you present the data, whether the data needs to be presented as a bar diagram, whether data needs to go as Kaplan-Meier plot. That also comes under the presentation skills, in addition to be the good orator. Soft skills, as I said, that the medical writer is a person who interacts with a lot of people, with a lot of stakeholders. So having these soft skills always plays in our advantage. Time and project management, because time is of essence. Influencing people. You will be working with a reviewer, you will be working with a data QCer or a copy editor, and these guys are not reporting into you directly. So how do you make them work? How do you influence them positively so they work for you? How do you make them understand? So influencing people without authority is a skill that a medical writer needs to have. Being a team player, because you're working within team. In medical writing, we really can't work in silos. I can't be a standalone writer and I just produce my drafts and send it. Who will review it? Who will QC the data I have included? Who will look at my language and grammatical aspect? So I have to be team player. I have to work with everyone. I have to understand their pain points. Say, for example, if I send my draft for review to my reviewer and he doesn't have time, and I'm not sensible of his time or accommodative of his time, then it won't be the recipe for success. So we have to be, at the end of the day, a good team player. And also we have to be good in coaching, because that's what we do. If you see, we interact with authors. Sometimes we try to coach them on ethics in publications. Sometimes we try to coach authors on who all can qualify for the authorship based on the criteria that we have. Sometimes we coach authors about some of the topics in science based on our past experience. And we also coach our budding writers within the team. So coaching is another important element that an ideal medical writer should have. Overall, if I can summarize, a medical writer is a team player, and his role involves interaction with multiple stakeholders. So you will have to utilize all your skill sets, functional, scientific skills, your people skills, your people management skills, and your communication skills to be a good and successful medical writer. Next slide, please. So these are some of the aspects that we have if we look into, and what are the opportunities for us being in India or Asia, I would say. So it's a very exciting career option, I would say, medical communications. And if you see, it's a pandemic proof career option, I would say. For instance, I'm working since last 2 months from home, and we just need laptop, we just need a good internet connection. That's it. We are on the job. And I would say no blocks in terms of productivity. It has reduced and it's going on well. In fact, in our profession of digital communications, there are freelancers. There are people who are remotely work from their homes, from different cities, and they are working successfully, delivering successfully. So it's a very exciting career option. We just need to have a good knowledge of science and flair for writing, and we get into this, and it opens the door for an opportunity. For us, we have rich talent pool. As a country, we have a rich talent pool, as I said earlier, of skilled professionals. We have economic advantage. Flexibility and agility is another advantage that we have. So if we look at culture differences, we are pretty flexible if you compare us with the Western world. We are flexible in our time zones. Many times you will find Indians or Asians stretching beyond their time zones, stretching way beyond their time zones, and that makes us successful. And agility, we are good in switching from one therapy area to another therapy area. That's how we are tuned. That's how we are hardwired. Time zone advantage. We have a big advantage of time zone. Many people might refer this as a disadvantage, but I always refer this as advantage. Why? Because we are in India. Say, for example, we work on the draft, we send over stakeholders who might be US, who might be in Europe. While they're sleeping, we on the draft, and while they are awake, they are working on the draft, they are sending us review comments, we are sleeping. So it's a big time zone advantage. We are day ahead than them, and that gives a big boost. We have a country of English speaking professionals, which is a great value add in our profession. Moving on to the next slide, and perhaps that's the last slide from me. So yes, and these are few points which these are the areas where we still are growing as as a field of medical communications in India and Asia. So a dearth of experienced writers. If you see, as I said, the medical communications or medical writing industry came into India in early 2000s, roughly around 2003, 2005. So we really do not have professionals who have experience of more than 10 years in the field. And many of us, like me, they were writers at some point in time. After gaining some experience, they moved into the operational roles like people management. So I really didn't stick to the functional role. So we really do not have writers who have more than 10 years of experience, a good pool of writers, I would say. Understanding cultural differences and limited global exposure. As students, we generally do not have a global exposure, which is in a way a limitation for us, and also understanding the different cultural backgrounds while working with people from western part of the globe. Non-native English speakers, although we are the country with a good pool of people speaking English, but we are not native English speakers, which gives an advantage in some scenarios to our Western counterparts. Lack of awareness about medcoms or medical communications and its growth avenues among students and aspiring medical writers. And this is the area I think we all together can work and try to bring us ahead in the direction, because this is the area I always, as a student, I'm not aware of this passion. When I got into this passion, it was chance, it was not choice, but I started liking it. So that's because we are lacking in terms of awareness, and that's where maybe industry and academia can partner together to bring on board everyone on the idea of medical communications as a profession. When we are students, we always think about getting into R&D. We always think about getting into quality control, quality assurance. We think about getting into marketing. We think about getting into medical affairs, but nobody really thinks about medcoms as a possibility. So that's something where we need to grow. And with this, I would like to conclude my talk, and maybe I would open it for any questions that we may have.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you, Dr. Dinesh. It was really a lucid presentation, and you have, actually covered a lot of aspects of medical communication.
Thank you.
Yeah, Aditya, please remove the presentation. Yeah. So, to be very honest with you, that I wasn't also knowing medical communication for a long time. It was you. When you joined this particular profession, I understood that this kind of profession also exists.
Yes.
And you have already mentioned about certain skill sets, right? About medical communication. So, however, I have one very precise question asked by one of the students participant here. That do you have to take any course after BPharm for pursuing your career into medical communication? Is there something like that available?
Yes. So, and that's a great question, I would say. So we do have courses, and as I said, it's still growing as a field or as a profession in India. But we really do not have courses in India. We have it in West. We have, say, for example, Wales University offering one diploma course in medical writing. We have ISMAP certification. So I talked about ISMPP, which we call it as ISMAP shortly, in a short form. And they offer a certification course for medical writing. and that's of great value. It's recognized by many industries in the field. So that's something, it's a certification. There are no really classes available. They have given the material, and we don't have to get into the classes or anything, but it's just we book a date and we go for that, we prepare for it, and we go for the examination, and we get this course. And it's valid for, I think, 3 years, and after that we can renew based on some credit points by attending some webinars and participating in some webinars, or maybe we can retake an examination. So there are two ways of renewing it as well. So these are some of the options available to equip ourselves for the field.
Okay, so that's a great opportunity for DY Patil University School of Pharmacy to collaborate, and if since this kind of course is not available anywhere in the country, I would request you to join hands with us and let us start this course, and let us make it available to the student community so that they can take this career for their
Ahead.
future.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
yeah, so I mean, one on one we can talk on this, and let us take it as a one of the important aspects for the students' growth, right?
Sure.
So there is another question that if someone is working in pharmacovigilance or medical writing, and if he or she has to shift to medical communication, is it possible?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'll take these two as different scenarios. So say, for example, someone is working on pharmacovigilance already, and they are into case processing, they are into reporting adverse events, and that is knowledge about safety. It definitely helps. In fact, in medical writing as well, we have different domains. We have something called as safety writing. They are the ones who prepare documents such as periodic safety update reports, and those documents go to FDA for their approval. We have regulatory writing, who prepare clinical trial reports, and this is medical communications, where we prepare publications. All these fields, if you see, the ultimate element that is key is writing, flair of writing and science. So, and we have a lot of examples who have moved from pharmacovigilance, who have moved from regulatory writing, who have moved from safety writing to field of publications, and that is definitely possible.
Possible. Okay. So
Absolutely.
what's a placement scenario in this profession, medical communication?
As of today, it's a great possibility in India, I would say, because we have a lot of players in the market. In terms of pharma company, we have the largest one is Novartis. We have the team of around 250 writers. So that's a department I work in. We have Eli Lilly in Bangalore, and they have a team of around 50 writers, I believe. We have Sanofi in Hyderabad. We have Amgen in Pune, and we have one more pharma multinational company. I think it's J&J. Sorry, it's Pfizer. We have Pfizer in Mumbai, and they have a very good team as well. So in terms of multinational companies, we have a lot of players. In terms of CROs and KPOs, we have Zero, Cactus, Indigene, you can name it, and there are several players in the market in terms of KPOs and CROs. And either of the industry setups, it's good to start, because it's not that both are different. They both will offer you different type of skill set. When I'm into a KPO or CRO type of a setup as a medical writer, I learn about client management, I learn about client relationships and things like that, in addition to science. When I'm in MNC, multinational pharma company, I learn more about science, I learn more about strategy of medical publication planning. So both come with different advantages, I would say. And then it's obviously anytime possible to switch between these two.
Okay, so can you briefly throw some light on what is medical media, basically? Medical media, you had said.
Yes. So medical media is basically, we have media houses, just like we have Z News, we have NDTV, we have Republic Bharat, Republic TV. So those are the media houses, and on similar lines, we have medical media houses as well. For example, Springer has its own medical media house. We also have a medical media house by Walter Kluwer, and these are the folks who actually cover the medical news in magazines. They publish articles in scientific magazines or medical magazines. They go to scientific conferences or medical conferences. They capture the recent data which is being presented or published by different companies, and they cover it in their editions of magazines. They also have webcast. So Medscape or CME, WebMD CME is another media house that we have, and they drive or they lead webcast, inviting several physicians who have good number of years of experience, and that is for educational interest. So
Okay.
they are the ones who report medical news, basically.
So what is the minimum qualification for a person to enter into this medical communication field? Is it a BPharm is sufficient, or masters or PhD? What is your take on that?
Minimum qualification to get into the beginner's role or the scientific writing role is generally MPharm. Our MPharms are preferred, postgraduates are preferred. Having said that, there are few people who are BPharm and they have several years of experience, in different domains, and they have moved into the field of medical communications. So it's not limited, but yes, MPharms are generally the first preference.
So which branch of MPharm is it? Is it that only pharmacology people are preferred there, or any other branch of MPharm is also preferred?
Regardless of branch.
Okay.
We have people who are from Suetix, we have people who are from Cognosy and herbal chemistry from NIPER. We have people like me who have done their MPharm in medicinal chemistry and PhD in pharmacology. So yes, definitely. And that's where our agility comes into the picture, how we switch from one domain to another domain, and we do well there.
So typically, what company looks into the candidate when they screen such kind of students for this kind of profile?
Generally, as recruiters, we look for people who have good scientific understanding. That's one thing. And as we know that this is a new profession, this is a new field, so nobody generally asks these technical questions like, do you know about the good publication practice guideline? Nobody will ask us that. But what questions are typically asked are about our own research, what we have done in our farm thesis, what we have done in our PhD thesis. They will try to ask you more questions about technicalities. And then there are more questions about soft skills. They generally evaluate, are you a team player? They generally evaluate, are you open to challenges? Are you open to changes? Because this is a profession which sees a lot of changes and challenges from people aspect. How well I'm in terms of my interaction, how well I'm whether I'm using an inclusive language or exclusive language, whether I'm using we or me. So all those things are taken into consideration from soft skill perspective. From an interview perspective, we generally have one technical round or functional round, followed by a written test, generally, in which is generally they give a manuscript without an abstract and they ask us to write an abstract, and then accordingly they evaluate the writing skills, how well we are in terms of writing skills. And generally the manuscripts which are given in these kind of writing tests are clinical trials manuscripts. So they also evaluate the understanding of clinical trials, what endpoints need to be reported, what results need to be highlighted, and what stats need to be covered. Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned that academic institutions can play a pivotal role in this medical writing or maybe medical communication for that matter. Can you just elaborate how academic institution can work on
Definitely,
this?
sir. And I would take I would like to take you to the scenario that we had in 2016, where we had ISMPP workshop conducted in India, and it was the first ISMPP champions annual meeting in India, and so far the last. We unfortunately we didn't have a second edition, but we are planning for that. We may have it soon. But in that we had perspectives from different industries, what challenges they are facing. Like we had a representative from publications, the editor. We had a journal editor. We had people from pharma company. We had people from KPOs, and we had people from academia. And we tried to invite their thoughts that what are the challenges they face. From academia, a challenge might be, what are the chances of placement of my students? What all they should go through to get equipped in order to crack the interview, and things like that. How we can increase the awareness. So all these factors, basically how well we can collaborate as an industry and academia, how well we can collaborate to educate students. Are there any study modules that need to be prepared? Are there any I would say certifications that need to be that we need to make students aware of? And you rightly asked the question about that just a way before. And are there any what are the avenues, basically? Because as I mentioned, the last point, lack of awareness is a key challenge in academia, and how we can make every student aware about this profession and what are the opportunities that they can look for in this profession. That's
Right.
where academia and industry can work together, and of course to explore the placement opportunities together.
So this is an open offer to you and maybe the ISMPP, to join hands with DY Patil University School of Pharmacy, so that let us, work together for the betterment of this particular career option, right?
Absolutely, sir.
My another question to you is whether are there any regulatory requirements, I mean regulations by government, particularly for becoming a medical communicator or writer?
As of now, we do not have any government regulations, but we do have certain guidance which are published by bodies, independent bodies like Good Publication Practices. We have one by ICMJ, which is International Council of Medical Journal Editors. And these are the guidance that we follow in any international corporate setup. But as of now, no government guidance because we really don't deal with the patient related data. We deal with the processing of the data or the process data, which is presented in the publications or posters or any
Oh,
form of communication.
okay, so you also mentioned that you people play a role in epidemiology, right? And in the present pandemic, I would like to know it. It's my
Mhm.
personal question, in fact, that what is the role of medical writer or how they can play effectively into this present pandemic situation?
Absolutely, and that's a fantastic question. So, in this pandemic situation, there are several aspects any pharma company is exploring. They are looking at the prevalence, they are looking at the doubling rate, they are looking at the parameters of the virulence of this virus, how they are, how the virus is behaving, how the disease pattern is, or natural progression of disease. That's one aspect. Another aspect is many companies have got into the clinical trials. Some companies are testing hydroxychloroquine. Some companies are testing their available arsenal of drugs currently, and they're trying to repurpose their drugs for this indication of COVID. And how medical writer plays a role here is when we get any trial data, communication is a key. Medical writer has to be on toes to actually draft the publication in that short span of time and communicate it to the external world. Of course, companies will have their external PR media releases or press releases, but that doesn't give the clear picture of the data as it should give to the physicians. But having a publication, having an abstract or a poster gives a clear picture to doctors. You would have noticed that NEJM, journals like NEJM and Lancet, they have kept COVID related articles as first priority, and they are
Yes.
considering any other article as a second priority, because of which several publications have been delayed. And that's where the role of medical writer is, because publishers are ready to help. How we can strengthen that and how we can hasten the process to communicate that data in a crisp and succinct manner, in an effective manner.
Okay, okay, that's really good information you have provided. Now, to close this session, can you just give your closing remarks that what is the future of this particular profession?
Sure, absolutely, sir. So, in terms of future, I would say future is very bright for medical communications in India, because this is something where we are growing, and there are a lot of opportunities available. As I showed that there are different roles which we have available in any medical communication department within any type of industry. So opportunities are immense. Whether we want to spend say 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or we want to retire in this profession. So opportunities are immense. It's sky is the limit there, and we have very good advantage because unlike China, unlike countries like Japan, we have a language advantage. We have time zone advantage. So these are the advantages that play on our side, and this is the time we should take benefit, or we should leverage on these advantages and try to grab opportunity with both hands.
Oh, that's really great information, Dr. Dinesh, you have shared with us. And you have opened up a new avenue of medical communication to the students. And I'm really thankful to you for your lucid talk. And you have also, replied to the queries of the students and other participants. So thank you so much once again. And to all the audience, I'm also thankful to you all that who have been actually witnessing right from 9th May till date, that is 19th May. So last 10 days we are actually alternatively listening to various career options in the pharmaceutical field, or post B Pharm or post masters. And this was our today's as a closing session where Dr. Dinesh spoke about the career opportunities in medical communications, and which was really a very good talk. And we got to know that something great is there in this medical communication field also. So once again, thanks a lot to each and everyone. And I would like to announce here that tomorrow 4 p.m. we are coming with a webinar on DY Patil University School of Pharmacy. That webinar will talk about what kind of infrastructure this school has got, what are the future plan of this school, what our faculty members talk about us, what our students talk about us, and what is there for the student community who are joining or who wish to join DY Patil University School of Pharmacy in Navi Mumbai. So thank you one and all, and have a good day. Have a safe day ahead. Thanks a lot.
Thanks everyone, and thanks sir for providing the opportunity, I would say, and thanks everyone for being a great audience. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure, Dinesh. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. All right, stay safe.
Thank you, Aditya. Thanks to you also.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Aditya.